Hello, class. Today we're going to be going into a topic that I think we all can kind of relate to. And before we kind of go into that, we're going to just kind of have a little discussion about maybe some personal things that have happened in our lives that would allow us to relate to immigration. Um, just by yourself, just think. How many of you have moved before? Changed schools? If you've moved before, if you've changed schools, you can kind of relate to some of the foundational problems that many immigrants face. What were some of the emotions that you were going through as you moved or as you changed the school? If I would venture to guess, as somebody who has moved before and who's changed schools, I was nervous. Didn't really know what to expect. I was scared. Was going to make new friends. I was angry because I had to leave old friends. I left my comfort zone. So with that being said, think about maybe those emotions. Compare it to an immigrant, somebody who's maybe leaving Poland or leaving Germany and coming to the United States. They come to America, and how's that going to be different from being my experience or your experience? Well, in many of these cases, some of these individuals who maybe leave a foreign country to come to the United States, many of them don't speak English. So try to imagine going somewhere, going to a school where you can't even speak the language. So amplify your concerns and amplify that by 100 from what they might be dealing with. So today, we're going to spend some time talking about immigration during the Gilded Age. There were two different immigrant groups that we'll be talking about here in a minute, along with a journey, and then what do they do when they actually got to the United States. So in you guys' notes today, you guys should be taking guided notes with this. And tomorrow in class, we're going to be going more into detail with it. So yeah, all right, here we go. All right, so think about maybe why your parents may have left cities or why you changed schools. Oftentimes, many of it was because your parents were seeking better opportunities for themselves and possibly for you. Maybe they wanted to provide you a better education. Maybe the school system you were at maybe wasn't the best. They wanted to give you more opportunities. Maybe they got a better job opportunity, so therefore they wanted to increase your money situation for your family. Really, that part of it is no different from the European experience coming to America. In Europe at this time, in the late 1800s and early 1900s, poverty was a huge problem for most citizens. Famine spread rapidly, where crops weren't growing, farmers weren't producing, and as a farmer, if your crops are not producing, that is a big drop in your money supply. So there were a lot of families that were starving and weren't making ends meet. And with that being said, America at this point was still a growing country, and many people thought America as the land of opportunity, the land of riches. There were rumors going around that the streets were paved with gold. I know it's kind of funny and crazy, but believe it or not, there were actually shipping companies that were doing that. They were telling people that the streets were paved with gold. Now, why would a shipping company do that? To attract people, create a lie. If people buy a ticket using their boats, that's good for business for them. The railroads were doing the exact same thing. So many of these individuals were hearing these rumors about this growing economy, growing industrialization back in the United States, and they thought it was going to be an easy source to gain income for that opportunity. The next major thing was there was a lack of freedoms in many of these European countries. There were people who didn't have free speech, who didn't have freedom of religion. For example, there were Jews and Catholics all throughout Europe that weren't given jobs. They didn't have the opportunity to provide for their families because they, quite frankly, didn't receive the opportunity to do so. So there were a lot of Jews and Catholics that were looked downly upon. So when you come to America, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, that is going to be a great opportunity for more people. And the last major point here that I have is many of them were trying to escape war-torn countries. Now think about it. If you're a parent and you have kids and you live in a war zone, obviously you and your kids are going to be put in harm's way. So in Hungary at this time, there was a huge revolution that was occurring in Central Europe. And a lot of parents decided that they wanted to leave to escape that area to provide more opportunities and safety for their children. So as you can see by this list here, many of these don't seem very far-fetched from maybe some reasons from why your parents may have moved in the past and brought you with them. Again, better schools, better opportunities, maybe safety. Again, better economic opportunities as well. So very similar. All right, here's a quote. This is a poem that's actually on the Statue of Liberty. And I think this is something that really truly epitomizes what the United States is about, especially at this time and even today. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free, the wretched refuse of your teeming shore. Send these, the homeless, tempest-tossed to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door. So for many of these immigrants, the Statue of Liberty was right where the Statue of Liberty was right where Kennedy. Can you give me a minute? All right, come on, that's fine. Sorry, guys, it's my daughter letting the dog out. I'm sorry. All right. So one of the things I love about this quote. Sorry, you hear my son in the background screaming. So one of the things I love about this quote is that many immigrants, as they came to America, they passed the Statue of Liberty. The Statue of Liberty represents freedom. So many people that came to the United States at this time, they were poor. They didn't have opportunities. They wanted freedom, and that's why they came to America. All right, so there are two different types of immigrants that we're talking about today. The first immigrant group, as you see up here by the top part here, is the old immigrants. These individuals came from mostly North and Western Europe, from places like Ireland and England and Germany, roughly about 10 million or so. And they came to the United States between 1600 and about 1880. So this is what they call the old immigrants, from this first wave of immigrants coming from Europe to America. Now, overall, this group had we'll say, an easier time transitioning to life in the United States. Why? Because they spoke English. They were Protestants. They were educated. So with those three things alone, when they came to the United States from Europe, they had the ability to speak English. That's huge. That's one less barrier that they have to break if they have the ability to, I guess, communicate with people. They could find jobs more easier. Two is that they were Protestants. Now, why is that a big deal? Because that was the main predominant religion in the United States at this time. Most of them were Protestants. So again, they had something in common with most Americans at this time. And the last thing is that they were educated. Excuse me for 1 second. Let me close the door. My son's screaming, throwing a... All right, sorry about that, guys. My son was throwing a temper tantrum. No nap Tuesdays, I guess. So that's what I was saying. These immigrant groups if they are educated, they had a skill. They were trained on something. They made more money because they had a certain particular skill. So very similar to like if you're a doctor or a lawyer, why do they make so much money? Because they have a skill. They're highly educated. They have a very specialized skill for something that deems a lot of pay. There's not a lot of people who have those skills. All right, so this group, not saying there was no racism, because the Irish, they experienced a lot of racism when they came to the United States for a variety of reasons, as we'll talk about later on in the unit. But they had a much more easier time adapting. Kennedy, close the door. Close it, please. I'm on this thing. I can't have Chase screaming. And then the other immigrant group was the new immigrants. These immigrants came after 1880. And this group was very, very, very much different compared to the old immigrant groups. They really didn't have a whole lot in common with them at all. For one, they came from war-torn, impoverished countries like Italy, Poland and Russia. Huge famines and war and poverty plagued these regions. Most of these immigrants did not speak English. They had no English background. So when you came to America, that's one barrier they have to face, is they can't communicate with people. And they stood out. You can't speak the language, you stand out like a sore thumb. People know that you're an immigrant once they hear you speak. 2, many of these immigrants were Catholics and Jews. They were not Protestants. So they were shunned. They were looked downly upon because of their religion. So although America had freedom of religion, there were still biases towards the Jews and towards Catholics. The third thing that stood out for this group is that they were not educated. So if they're not educated, you have no skill. You won't get paid a whole lot of money. You're going to be doing jobs that anybody can do. And then the fourth thing is that this group held on to their cultural beliefs. They held on to the language. They held on to their religion. They didn't really adapt to the American way of life. And many Americans are natives at the time. They looked down upon that. They wanted these immigrants to adapt to what makes America Americans. So in total, about 20 to 30 million people came to the United States during this time. All right, so once they decided to leave their countries, they had to make a boat journey to the United States. And these boats were not ideal. Again, you're talking about the late 1800s and early 1900s. Technology was not that great. As you see by the picture here, boats for the most part were packed. It was a roughly about 6 to 12-day journey from Europe to America, $25 a ticket. So it was really expensive back then. $25 back in this time period was very expensive. So oftentimes what happened was a lot of the men, the fathers, the older brothers, they would leave first, come to America, work, and then send for their family a little bit later on, because the tickets were expensive. There was a huge differences between how the rich were treated and how the poor were treated. The poor were treated like they were disease-ridden. They were checked by doctors prior to getting on the boats. They were checked on the boats, and they experienced the most harshest living conditions while they were on the boat. They lived in a place called steerage. Steerage was at the very bottom of the boat. This is where the engines were at. It was very smoky. It was very dusty. You didn't have a lot of windows. You were packed in. You often had to share rooms with couples who you didn't know. So if you have people that are packed into a certain area, you get disease spreading very easily, sicknesses spreading very easily. You have no privacy. So those were just a few of the concerns and a few of the problems that many of these immigrants experienced. Here's a picture here of showing you about what a typical bunk look like with steerage. As you see, there's 6 bunks there. Again, people packed into the beds, into rooms. Here's another picture here showcasing what it looks like. Then here's a picture here. It's kind of crazy. You have 2 beds on the side, and then you have the toilet right in the middle. So if you were going, if you were sleeping, you had to go to the bathroom. You'd be laying down there, and somebody who you either know or may not know, whoever was rooming with you, would be going to the bathroom right next to you. So again, no privacy for that. All right, so once they arrived in America, you see here in the picture here, there's a Statue of Liberty, and there's a little island called Ellis Island. Ellis Island is the location where European immigrants checked into the United States at. It was in New York City. Again, millions and millions and millions of people would check in here. And odds are, if your family came from Europe, a European country, odds are you can actually, what's cool about it is that you can actually go back and check the logs and see where your family name signed in at. It was really neat. And then the Asian immigrants, they would check in California, in San Francisco, called Angel Island. So for me, I think of Europe, E, Ellis, E. European, E, Ellis Island. That's New York City. And Angel Island, Asian, AA. So for me, that always helped me with that. Here's a picture of that Ellis Island with all the immigrants checking in at. All right. So anyway, today you saw the journey, at least the beginnings, about why immigrants came to the United States. Tomorrow in class, we're going to be talking more in depth about it. I'll be showing you guys a couple scenes from Titanic. But anyway, hope you took the notes. Expect an extra ticket on this, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Thanks so much.